This episode of Nicole Stone Outdoors, we are going to go over rigging for big bluegill. We are going to talk about how I set it up, where to find the fish, how to target them, what you use for bait, and then how you guys can take this and apply this into your home waters. Alright guys, so when we're out here rigging for these bluegill, I'm using a really simple setup. I personally am using a medium extra fast action rod from Tuned Up, their Apex Elite. What I love about it is it's got the backbone that if I hook into a bass, a big pike, which are out here, or a walleye, which would be the dream, it's going to handle it just fine. But that extra fast action end is really flexible at the very end of the rod, making that really easy to detect bites. You can use any rod you have on hand. You can have a bait caster set up, whatever you need, whatever you have, make use of. But this is just a good option. And then for my setup, I've got 8-pound braid because it is set up for bigger fish. No problem for this. And then I've got the classic Lindy floating rig. And what that really means is that I have a thick sinker. You can use any sinker you want over a swivel, and I have their floating snell. Don't worry too much about the length of the snell when doing this. These fish are aggressive, they're in massive schools, and they're very competitive. And instead, make sure you have a float. That is truly gonna be key. So we have the slip weight. You guys can get these from LureNet. We have a built-in Lindy floating leader. Also can get this from LureNet. I'll have a discount code below. The real key to this whole entire thing is this float that helps bring it up to the school of fish. So you definitely need a floating one. And you guys can make these yourselves. You can buy the pieces, but I definitely like a more efficient route of just buying them. Hook on the end. Any size hook will be just fine. These fish are going to be aggressive. And what I love is these are quick attached, so this loop is already tied in there. Yes, you can create your own. Just depends if you want to save time or not. Your slip weight, you have a swivel, so you can easily connect the leader. You have your leader length or snell. You have the float, and then you have your hook. And now you can use either worms or leeches, or honestly, probably even a small plastic to catch these fish. When I am looking for fish, I rely heavily on a mixture of down imaging, 2D sonar, and side imaging. Side imaging obviously tells me, 40, 50 feet out what I'm looking at. But even if you just have 2D imaging, it's gonna go do wonders for you because you're gonna see those piles of fish suspended off the bottom. And those are probably gonna be big bluegill, especially if they're suspended off the bottom and they almost look like a pile of weeds off the bottom. So I'm just looking off of deep points where I see weed lines that come out farther. I'll be off the deep side of them because that's where I'm finding it. And I'm really just cruising around until I see these fish. It's a lot of looking, but in small lakes like this, you're going to find lots and lots of healthy panfish, and you're gonna see them schooled up. Just remember to go deep and trust your electronics. Just got them encoded down. And I'm gonna go about a half a mile an hour, kind of like you would do rigging for walleye, except I'm doing it for bluegill. And they're going to come right, oop, I already got tapped. And when you're gonna get the bigger fish, what's nice about this is the bigger fish are gonna be weaned on it. So it's just gonna be a lot nicer fish compared to, if you're sitting out here with a bobber, because a lot of times you get the smallest ones. So there's a nice fish. Look at that. You cover some nice ground. They really like the speed with a high metabolism this time of year. School right here. So we'll just keep trolling this deep break line. I'm right off 17 feet, so the weed line's up a ways yet. I'm maybe 5 or so feet down from that, and they just come in these massive schools of 1,000. A lot of fish do that this time of year. They really congregate. Panfish do. You're going to see crappies congregating more towards the basin at the end of summer, and with bluegills, you're going to see them off the deep side of breaks, points, that sort of thing. What I recommend doing, obviously, first and foremost, is finding them on side imaging and down imaging. You'll see them, and then start targeting them from there. And a lot of times, you get the bigger ones. So I'm hoping this feels like a little healthier fish. Oh, this is a jumbo perch. Ow. Such a What's that? Does that look funny? You made me bleed.
Go like this.
The next thing I really want to talk about is just the fact that a lot of times it's easy to get things like perch, but what you're going to notice the difference of between perch and bluegill, our bluegill are going to be in a lot more suspended schools typically, where the perch are going to be the bigger schools closer to the bottom. Bottom so hard, it's so fun. Beaut. Ooh, that's a nice fish.
Is it on?
That's a nice fish. This is not. If this is a sunfish, it's huge. heck is this? Holy, it's a big one. Look at these things. That is a thick fish. Look at that. Oh, there we go again. Look at him shoot way out there. Oh, they're just feisty. It's crazy. Like, I can't even get down. And they just hammer it. We're out in 15 feet right now. So you guys can use leeches or worms, and they just hammer it. It's like that warm weather, the metabolism's hot, and these fish just hammer it. It's a nice one. They're all really nice fish. You made a mess of that, but will you B-roll it? And another thing to look for is, like, this is a big bowl that we're on. So you have the main lake, you have a bay, and you have a 30-foot bowl. The transition between the main lake and the bowl, they're stacked in here right along the weeds, because there are a bed of weeds, and kind of like in between there's a transition area that they go in and out of, and they're stacked in here. And you can also find them up against weed edges, but just be off the deep side this time of year. Yes, you can troll through weeds and find them. Yes, you can find them off of docks, but if you want to find them in literally the thousands, I highly recommend transition areas like this or off heavy weed lines. And to find them off weed lines, really rely on your electronics. So if you want them to survive and you're not going to eat them, what I really recommend you do is just cut the line. And we've got extra hooks and beads to reattach. So get as close as you can to the mouth and let it go. Hey you guys, that is a wrap on an awesome day of bluegill fishing. If you guys want to use these floating rigs, be sure to check out the link below. Nicole15 will get you 15% off from LearNet on all these types of things. But this is an awesome way for you to find big fish, not just catch a lot of fish, but wean out the little fish, catch some much more bigger quality fish, have a good time, and also cover ground for species like crappie, walleye, and pike, and bass. So hopefully that you guys find that helpful. Please subscribe and hit notifications, and I'll see you on the next episode.